Hi everybody, I'm Allan, Stewart. You can tell that because I'm the only one who hasn't got a Finnish accent. And here are the cast and crew from Hipfire Games. So, chaps, could you please introduce yourselves?
Sure.
So, hello, I'm Lari, Unkari, and I'm the CTO of Hipfire Games. I've been in the game industry for around 10 years now, and in the VR side of it for 2 years, as per our company. I've worked on pretty much all of the platforms, mostly on the PC side, and then a little bit of mobile and PS4 as well.
And what companies?
Well, I've been at Supercell for one, and Housemarque. For example, I was programmer on the Alien Nation PS4 game that was fairly recently released before we started our venture here.
Cool. So my name is Antti. I'm the CEO of Hipfire Games, and for example, I was working in Supercell launching the Heyday, which then became the first major hit of Supercell, which was very exciting, and been loads of stuff after that, including mobile browser, all sort of stuff. Before 2 years ago, we set up Hipfire Games to explore VR and lately how could we bring some of the mobile thinking into that.
Cool. My name is Haataja. I'm the creative director of Hipfire Games. My previous experience in games is at Rovio for 5 years. I was in Angry Birds Star Wars 1 and 2 and then Angry Birds Space, and then I made a few years this game called Battlebane, which I was the principal arena designer / effects artist / 3D modeler.
Bit of everything.
Yeah.
Very cool. Cool. So that's the crew from Hipfire, and their connection with London is Techstars. So you guys might have heard of Techstars. They're an accelerator program, a bit like Y Combinator, I guess. And I think you graduated from a Finnish accelerator first, right? So you've been accelerated twice. So you're now literally
we're hyperspeed, so that's why we're making a space game. Actually, that's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right, great. Okay, cool. That makes sense. And yeah, cool. So I mentor on Techstars, and my little business is just, it's like a kind of bedroom business. But I've been working. I used to work at Jagex. What was it called? Publishing. So I was in the publishing department. Headed that up for 3 years. And so fell in love with games there, and still involved with. I worked on Frontier Games, the Jurassic Evolution launch with what's his name, Goldblum, Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so I worked with him, did the filming, and then bumped into these guys at Techstars, and I was just like, this is awesome. It's so exciting that they're going to try and blend these worlds together. But it's pretty challenging, though, right, guys? So can we let's just get real straight away? Can you tell us, you've had all this hype, you've had all this acceleration, but what's it like in the trenches? Bring it to life a little bit for any of these people here who are thinking about becoming an indie dev. Perhaps they are an indie dev.
Sure. Well, it's not a walk in the park in any case. I mean, VR on itself, I think we all know that a couple of years ago the bubble kind of grew and burst, and everybody thought that everybody's going to have a VR device in their back pockets in 2 years. Well, surprise, surprise, that never happened. So it is a climate where VR is sort of a bit frowned upon, and it went down a bit. Yeah. And I think one of the things that is keeping VR or has been keeping VR down is the lack of games that are popular on other devices. So I think multiplayer games being one really good example, because the device base is growing, but it's still fairly small. It's practically impossible to do multiplayer games in any sort of scale. I mean, you have even the best performing games have a couple hundred concurrent users online at any point, and that's the top performing games. So it's basically a suicide if you're thinking about doing a multiplayer game in VR. And that's where our backgrounds in Supercell Rovio, mobile world came in. We thought, is there a way out of this? Could we could we blend this? Could we bring the people where there is people to the people, like place where there isn't? And like I'll let the guys answer a bit more about the technical stuff, but basically the big challenge with VR is that even if you have the VR headset, the chances are your friends don't, and you can't play with them. So what we are saying is that if you have the VR headset, you can play with all of your friends because they have mobile phones. And we think that's something that's going to come up in the next couple of years.
And that's kind of what makes, well, for a lot of people, that's what makes gaming fun, right? The MMO element. So bring that to VR is huge. So challenges, you clearly mentioned a couple there. How in the hell do you get around that? I know you've been chatting with Improbable. I genuinely don't know to what depth, but I'd be very intrigued to find out, I mean, not just specifically with regards to Improbable, but how you're getting around some of these challenges, technical challenges.
Okay, for one challenge to connect VR players with mobile players is that you don't really have that many VR players, but you have plenty of mobile players available should they go into your game. That kind of spells it clear that you can't really bank on having the VR players there. So making a game that requires a VR player to play with the mobile players, or the mobile players to actually require a VR player to play at all, is dangerous, to say at least. That is...
That's pretty honest.
Yes. That is why we have looked into Improbable's technology, because we would easily be able to implement a world where you don't really need any specific type of a player to be there, and you can run the world in a cloud where it's persistent, and you can just join a ship crew, and the ships will be maybe even persistent. That would be really nice, actually. But yeah, that's just one point on what's challenging there. Yep.
I mean, of course, like the big thing in everybody's minds, of course, is probably the interface as well, because they are very different interfaces. Like, how do you connect those? And I think what we have been doing and from our learnings, we've learned that anything you can do to minimize the work you have to do between those two devices, you should, whether that's technical tools, whether that's any scripts you can run to sort of like bridge the gap between the two interfaces. Maybe it's like elements in, like, for example, if using Unity.
Unity.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about making a little toolkit or something for other devs, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, like, we're doing it internally. So I would say, like, if you're looking into something like that, then you need to work on something of your own, or try to look of like what is out there for you. But it's because it's such a new niche yet, you have to make your own tools as of yet. But yeah, we're working on that personally.
A quick interjection there. I mean, yes, we are working on our own tech to reuse it in the further development of future prototypes and games. But if the market is ready for it, and if there's demand for it, I don't see why we wouldn't offer that, package that, and offer that.
That's classic startups, right? Pivot.
Yes, good job. Yeah.
But that is funding super hard. This isn't a talk about funding, by the way, but obviously, because I work in an accelerator, it's always part of it. But I think Techstars has been great for you guys, right? So they're not really specialising in games at the minute, but I might be gently encouraging them to try and go down that route. So if you're interested in that, let me know.
Oh, we tried.
Yeah, cool. So these guys were the second, I think, accelerated company that was games. I believe there was another one. Cool. So looking at the art style, Kim, coming to you, was that all your baby?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. And actually, like, I think Kim has a pretty good point about like optimizing for the two platforms as well, because you need to have.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, mobile and.
Yeah, as the standalone headsets are now coming, they'll be utilizing the Samsung S7 late Qualcomm something processor, which is Snapdragon, so that you have to do the same optimizations and harder for the VR and yeah, if you do that, then you can have it running pretty smooth on the mobile phones as well. But yeah, back to the game a bit, that we did talk about the persistence of the world, and I think that if you shift the focus a bit from the kind of game being about the VR players and mobile players as kind of characters, that the central focus is in them, and shifted to the fact that the central focus is in the actual ship, and you utilize the ship systems through your mobile phone to like access a droid, which can be bipedal, or a droid that is a drone, and the game is about like delivering cargo from station to station, and you can have a human player there like to help you out, but you can actually like complete the mission and enjoy the game with just the mobile devices playing on their own terms. But it also means that we have to kind of double design user interfaces, because you can't flip switches and fiddle with buttons so nicely as you can do in VR. So we have to do some sort of like 2D UI overlay to the 3D interfaces, but you still have the kind of background animation and the feedback of the inputs going on.
Actually, that was a really good point, that we are using in our game the VR players, because they have the head and they have the hands. They are the humans because they can do the human things, and the mobile players are little droids or robots because they don't have hands, but they can do some of the stuff that the VR player can do,
like
but a bit more.
And it's mixed with RoboCop.
Yeah. So you can do different play styles for different devices, and I think you should keep in mind what are the like strong points of each device, because obviously the strong points of VR devices are the sort of like tactile feedback and being able to reach and look into places where you wouldn't normally be able to, and for mobile it's the screen. You have to use the screen, so maybe
it's not just a companion app, is it? I mean, I played it. Because if you're a little droid, there's not, you'd think, God, it's just like grinding or something.
Yeah,
it's
no. But
it's like feature rich. Or
you can do pretty much in our case, you can do pretty much the same stuff with the mobile phone that you can do with the VR. But you could do it differently. So there's nothing stopping you from going full 2D on the mobile and 3D in VR. Maybe even go as far as think of like asynchronous stuff. So and that's something that we are thinking like down the line, not now, but like in a couple of years. Maybe the case is that like during your day you're playing in VR and you're playing some like hack and slash monster slaying game, whatever, and then you're like, oh damn, I might have to go to work, headset off. But on the bus or train, you can take the mobile out. You can either continue it, or maybe you're building your village or whatever. You get money to buy a cool sword in VR. I mean, like there's all sort of things you could do between those worlds, which haven't been explored yet.
That's really interesting. As a kind of what do you call it, like capitalist pig sat over here, I'm thinking, does that mean we can monetize on mobile? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean,
sorry to ask the really businessy question, but like,
I mean, like somebody's gonna ask that anyway. Like, it's a very let's be real. Like all of us here wouldn't be here without investors and publishers and all that stuff asking these questions. So that's a really good question. I think it's gonna be a gradual process. I think at the moment, for us, we are going. So Fellspace is about 75% VR, and we expect like maybe 25% of players to be mobile. So it's premium on VR, it's free on mobile. But we expect it to shift towards like the mobile free-to-play models with the consecutive titles, or like when the cross-platform sort of matures and there's going to be standards. But of course, there's going to be different things, like are the mobile players more likely to buy time? Are the VR players more likely to buy vanity items because they can now have the shiny watch on their hand? which is actually really there. So there's lots of questions there. I think we have some solutions. We don't have all the answers, but I think it's up to a lot of developers to explore that area, and I think it might move towards free-to-play in the end, towards the mobile side, but we'll see.
So out of you three guys, who's the biggest game purist, if you like? Hey, I thought it might be Larry. Okay, Larry, question for you. Would you go exclusive, or would you say cut a deal with one of the big partners, platforms, or like what does your heart tell you as a gamer, as a purist?
I mean, do you mean exclusive
Exclusive
platform-wise?
distribution, yeah. Or are you thinking like, get it everywhere, broad and fast? And
Right. In terms of fail space, or actually in general too, I don't really have a problem with going cross-platform. I actually enjoy it. I mean, it's a really good trend, and
it's probably more the other way though, like just to do a deal with say PS4.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely challenges, and for example, we've seen many cross-platform games that are not of the traditional type come out recently. Like one can say PUBG, for example. Nobody would have earlier, like a couple of years ago, expected that you can pit mobile players and PC players against each other and have no problems with it, really. And that's been done now, and I'm just glad that it happened. Personally, of course, being a kind of a purist, I really would play still on PC, but I would definitely gladly be on the forefront of expanding that cross-platform.
Very, very cool. So I wanted to probably open it up to be a bit of a discussion with everybody in the room. Is that okay? I'm getting the short and sweet. Oh, we don't have time for that, do we?
Just one question for the.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay.
So has anyone got any questions?
Yeah.
If not, that's fine.
I've scared them off now. Come on.
Yeah, I think you have.
Are we that exhaustive?
Okay, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up by saying, what was it, most hyped game in PC Gamer? Most hyped VR game?
Yeah, we were in the group of most wanted VR games for 2019.
So that's quite exciting. So the game will be coming quite soon? 2019. There you go. So hopefully we spread a bit of awareness now, and if you guys and girls would like to play, we would love that.
Yeah. Antti, Kim, Larry and Allan, thank you very much.
Thank you.